Deb here, your spiritual cheerleader and mentor. Welcome to Greater is Jesus in Me YouTube channel. And you know what to do. Subscribe now. And friends, today we have a very special guest, Pastor Dr. Marshaundus Robinson. Hey, Pastor, how you doing?
Hello, Ms. Deb. How you doing? Good to see you. Glad to be here.
Hey, and I am so happy to have you here. Let's get right into this. Please tell the folks a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on this. I count it an honor. I don't take it for granted that anybody would ask me to do anything, and because I don't feel like I have arrived, and I know my limitations. So I want to first of all thank you for allowing me to be on this platform. This is a wonderful platform, and I'm praying that you will continually grow and move higher and higher in the Lord through this video, social media forum. I am Marshaundus Robinson. Some people call me Marshawn, Sean, because Marshaundus can be very long, and sometimes I ask mom and family, why you name me this? Because it's so long. But but you know, I learned, got hand cramps trying to write it. But I am Marshaundus Robinson, born in Waterloo, but had my upbringing in Waterloo and a stint in Chicago, Denver, and mainly Milwaukee and Waterloo. But Waterloo is home, and secondly, Milwaukee would be. And I am married to Mrs. Amber Robinson, formerly Miss Amber Boyd. And we have two daughters, 3 and 4. The 4-year-old is going on 5. The 4-year-old is named Ava James. We call her AJ. And the 3-year-old named Riley James. We call her RJ. And I am currently a COO with my grandfather. We have a business here. He started it, and I help him along with others with our business. We're in the service industry, and we do a couple of things in the service industry. John Deere is one of our biggest clients. We do some cleaning in there and some shop backing in there. And then I have a master's of Christian ministry from Mid-America Christian University, and have a doctorate in ministry and with an emphasis on leadership from Liberty University. I pastor a church in Waterloo, Iowa called Impact Church of Hope. We recently merged as a church. I planted the church some 3 years ago, and I joined with my pastor and New Hope Baptist Church to combine and take over the leadership as Impact Church of Hope. And we're here. We're joining this journey. It's been a couple months now, and we're enjoying the journey. So just glad to be in the service, glad to be doing ministry, and want to be a better pastor, family man, and leader.
Wonderful. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And one of the most important things is that you are the son of a dear friend, sister of mine, Carolyn.
Yes. Yes.
And Carolyn, that's your mama.
I love her.
Yes, and she loves her 3 boys, let me tell you.
Yes.
And Carolyn is the owner of the best popcorn shop in Fredericksburg,
Amen.
Virginia.
Yes.
Just popping. So folks, if you are in the area, please visit Just Poppin', the best popcorn shop in the Fredericksburg area, okay?
It's the bomb.
Let's just jump right into this conversation.
Yes.
And the conversation is about pre-marriage counseling.
Yes.
And this is not only for people who are dating and thinking of getting married, but this is also for people who are not dating and might be hoping and looking forward to being in a relationship.
Yes.
And also and this is for people of all ages, because I know younger people and older people that are in this situation, and
Mhm.
also people who are maybe even married but never did any pre-marriage counseling, and
Yeah.
we need some marriage counseling and Christian dating and its challenges, because sometimes Christian dating is a little bit different to when
Yes.
you're not a Christian. And then we want to also talk about the questions couples, believers and non-believers, should ask each other before considering getting married.
Yeah.
And the truth is, many don't ask these questions for many reasons.
Yes.
So we're going to dive into all of this right now.
Yes.
Give me your take on pre-marriage counseling.
I think premarital counseling is paramount. Um, if you haven't, you wish you did. I've heard so many times of people who saying I would still be married had we got proper or premarital counseling at all. And I've heard probably more so, or just as much, those who are married and gonna stick it out saying, I wish we would have had premarital counseling. Premarital counseling will help you navigate or help you to understand your future spouse better and knowing how to come together and give you some touch points to understand how to deal with your spouse to be, or to really let you know if this is where you need to be or if this is the time you need to marry. I can say a lot of people may have the right person, but the wrong time. A lot of people can have maybe ready, but maybe have the wrong person who is not ready. And with the lack of proper counseling or marital counseling to ask the tough questions, they would have been able to navigate that. So it is very paramount because you need to know who you're getting. I mean, lack of a better word, getting in bed with. Yeah, you need to know. We see in society people have married serial killers. We see in society people have married people who are addicted to drugs, addicted to porn, addicted to all kinds of things. And some of those things happen, and it doesn't make the spouse the worst spouse in the world because of a certain problem, addiction, maybe struggle with something. They need help though, and sometimes you can jump into misery. It may get better, but you're gonna be miserable for a while if you don't know what you're jumping into. So it is very paramount to have conversations. At the very least, have your pastor, even though we're not, we wouldn't be, some of us are not in the therapy or clinically, but to get spiritual advisement will be very helpful. Would definitely do that. If you got an older couple that can tell you the truth, that has stood the test of time to really help you if you don't have anybody. You may not have the money. You may not even have the proper health insurance to get that type of work or know how to, to navigate that insurance. But find somebody that is solid, legit, honest, that can help you. And I think it's very paramount because we live in a time you don't know what you're getting into. People can fake on Facebook. So it's very paramount that you get down to the nitty gritty in counseling, conversation, talking. And I have like 4 points of things that we can look at. They're not they're not cookie cutter, but I think they're helpful and were helpful to me and are helpful to me now. And looking back, even in my marriage to my beautiful wife.
And before you go into those 4 points, there's something too that you said, and one of the things I always say too, there might be two good people that are not good for each other.
Right.
She might be a good person, he might be a good person, but they are just not good together.
They're not good together. And that's true. And that's okay.
Yes, and that is okay.
Yeah.
And you have to know to walk away. And that's why it's important. This premarital counseling brings out a lot of things that you may be uncomfortable asking. Because again, my thing is people sometimes are going in blindly into what's to be a lifetime commitment. And there are some hard questions. They might be uncomfortable, they might be awkward, but these are important questions you need to ask up front.
Right.
to
Right.
know who you're marrying, if you're going to be compatible and
Yeah.
not find out after, as you were saying.
Right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And I think it's so important that we do that, and to learn again. I'm gonna use that word again. It's okay, because so many people go and say we just gonna do it, and sometimes knowing this might not be the time, or this may not be the person, but I want to be married, and sometimes we do it. And even with my wife, she has a doctorate degree in education. I'm a pastor, so on the surface, God brought my wife to me, but on the surface, people thought, well, you're a pastor, you're a really good guy, she's got her doctorate, y'all should just be together. And finding out, like, okay, that's good, but just because you have an education and I'm a pastor, or who got a little bit of education, doesn't mean that's the step you're supposed to take. Now, God brought us together, but just because two people got degrees doesn't mean that is supposed to be together. Just because two people are, maybe two different preachers. Just because both of y'all preachers, we may mesh. No, that don't always work, because you can have some competing things. You can have some stuff going on, and a lot of times it does work. But just on the surface,
yes,
you got to make sure you're not just looking at, okay, he got money, or she got money, or she got a good job. That's good, but you might be straight in finances, but you might not be good in the bed.
Right.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
You might be straight in finances,
yes,
but you might not really be intellectually there. She may be, or he may be, all about business, but not touchy. And you want some touching. You want to hold hands. They're like, okay, two married people coming together. Yeah, we may have kids. Let's have some kids, but let's be about our business. Let's make these Benjamins. And you depress being with somebody who got good status, but they don't have good love, or the love you want. Now they may need to be with somebody who was okay with, them being on the road 40, 30 times out the week and can handle that. So sometimes we look on the surface, but it's okay to say, you know what, let's walk away. Even in dating, without being married, I lost some friendships going a little too far in the relationship. And we could have been friends. So, you know what, it just ain't, and she might have been hurt, or he might have been hurt, vice versa, but they would respect you in the end. Right. But then y'all intertwining, having intimate stuff going on, and now hearts are involved, and you leave, y'all break up, she tearing you down, she putting on what you done did with her, because you didn't just say, let's stop.
Right.
But because you were hot, you were lonely,
yeah,
you get involved with stuff that don't always work.
And
and sadly we see that. Yeah.
It's normal. And two, when people, I would say most relationships, not all, but most relationships, they start out with the physical, and then they go into the sexual, and they never go beyond that. There's no conversation. There's no questions about important things. It's just that. And then that is not enough.
That's not enough
for a relationship to be lasting.
Yeah. So, and you're right. And please, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off. No. One of my pastors told me in Milwaukee, he said, shapes are good, but after 30, 40 years, they go down. After sometimes 10, 15 years, we get older. Our stomachs pop out. You in good shape, but I done gained a few pounds, me personally, and I lift weights, but I'm like, ugh. So I got to get back down. But with time, working, having children, you're slowing down. You're not as active. Things change, and so and curves do change. I've seen people who were shapely, and after a while, it's like, they got older, they got tired, life hit them, and if your wife get in a car accident, your husband get in a car accident, and cannot do everything you want to do you have something that can hold you together?
Yes.
Outside of the physical.
Yes.
And I think we don't need to minimize the physical, because those are issues too that are happening. But if you don't have anything beyond that, you're gonna be most miserable. You're gonna enjoy the bedroom, or You're going to enjoy those things, but you don't want to be out with them. You don't want to have a conversation with them. And that's how, and I may be getting ahead of myself, you can easily end up in emotional affairs. Because, she may feed your loins, but not your mind. And often for women don't just want someone who can, Lord, wham, thank you, ma'am. Because they're not going to be satisfied if you're not stimulating their mind often or touching their emotions. Men, we like touch, but the woman wants to emotionally feel as well. And so we have to be very careful that we're not shallow with just sex and bodies, because when we're going through hard times, the next body that looks better, you're gonna want that too. So that can't be the only thing to keep you, because always gonna be somebody who got a better body, And so I hope that's not too candid.
No. We here speaking the truth, because this is something that people need to talk about openly.
Really do.
And
really
don't do it. And that is why people get into relationships. They stay in relationships. They sometimes get married, and then they're miserable the rest of their lives if they don't divorce. So that's why we're talking about this right now. So you were saying that there are 4 key points that you wanted to bring up and share with our friends.
So, yes. And they're not cookie cutter. There's some things I've observed and I've seen. Again, my knowledge is not simply what I've researched. I've researched some stuff, but most of my knowledge is experiential in the field. I've married several couples, and well, I won't go into this part, but I use marriage as outreach. So I'm open door. If you don't have a church or pastor, and you're a believer, and even mainly I'm a Christian in the Christian sector, but you want to be married, and I'm open to helping you have a church home, your pastor. So I do that. Part of it is for outreach, to help bring them back to Christ. So a lot of people come to me, and I get a lot of differences, mainly younger people, but I've had some older people I've counseled primarily, and then some were in the trenches, and unfortunately some didn't work. They could have. Some made it through, and we didn't know they were, and they made it. Some remarried and got back together just in talking with them. But the 4 C's I use before marriage, it's counseling, communication, consecration, and community. I'll say those again. Before you get married, you should have some counseling, communication, consecration, and community. Counseling, we're talking about that now. You need somebody to ask you the hard questions. You need to ask, how are your finances? You need to ask, and this goes in communication as well, but you need to know, especially as a Christian, being a pastor, it's probably best biblically to be with somebody who is a believer and a genuine believer, not someone who just go to church. Do you really love Jesus? So because I see a lot of that, and a lot of people wish, especially with our women, wish their spouses come to church or are really truly saved, but they marry them because they're in church for a season, and they don't stay in church even at that. But you want to ask some tough questions, get someone else's perspective, because we live in a world. Sometimes you need Jesus, prayer, and medicine, because you got grief stuff going on. You got parental stuff going on. Some people's parents were not with them, left them. Some people's parents raped them, literally. And there's a lot of psychological stuff going on. And so they're going to need to know, when you're in a relationship, when we get into it, I'm not your daddy that mistreated you, or your stepfather that mistreated you. You put me in the same category. So some psychological stuff has to take place. Are you healthy? I've heard it this way, and I'm gonna hurry on. It's not 50-50, it's 100-100. You need 2 whole people together, or it's suggested that. It doesn't mean you're gonna be, but it don't mean you don't have issues. But you want to be as whole as you can be, psychologically and spiritually. There are some people in church that are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I've had people preach, and I preached as a kid, with a 1.6 rate on that. I've been preaching 21 years, but I didn't apply school. So there's some counseling that needs to happen. You need to be thinking. Then communication. What are non-negotiables? What are our expectations? So you got to talk. And physical is important. One of my mentors, Dr. Ari Vernon, I'm a part of the Shepherd's Connection. He says physical attraction is important. If you don't like really short, and that really ain't your attraction, but because you're lonely, you want to get together, you need to communicate, in your mind, obviously your sight, you see, but you need to be with somebody 7'2" if you don't like somebody 4'2". If you like them tall, physically. Now God he doesn't always give you what you totally ask for sexually and all that. So I'm not saying that, but you want to make sure you're attracted to them because you don't want to be with them and it's not fair to them. You're stuck on porn because she ain't the type you really wanted.
Or feeling that you settle.
Yeah.
Some people, they do,
Yeah.
they get with people because they feel nobody else is looking, nobody's knocking at their door, and then they just go because they are lonely.
Because they're lonely.
Settle, but then they're not happy.
And they're not happy. You didn't get what you wanted.
Yeah.
And so you got to have expectations. If you don't like cleaning the house, and that ain't your thing, because sometimes things are deceiving, you need to communicate that, and people may not like this or may think it's shallow, but there's some husbands or some wives don't like a junky house. Right. And you got to say,
are sticklers about that. Yep.
Yeah. You need to be meticulous. Hey, I got a little OCD, and I'm probably going to, we may almost argue, or I may come home frustrated, huffing and puffing because I like my house clean, immaculate. And so you got to have those talks. Okay. One of the things I can say for my wife and I like to travel a lot, and I will, and there's some things she had, but I like to travel. I like going to conferences and conventions. And I told her, would that be okay? And, she was like, cool. I do it. And she found out I like to travel. And at first it was like, oh man, I said, for me, I'm in a smaller city, smaller demographic in Iowa. I need to get away every now and then. I need to see some water. I need to see, some bigger lights. We're not a laughable city. I need to see some other churches I can glean from. And I told her, I said, baby, I said this, and I had to taper off. I have to be understanding, but, we got to have those conversations. What are your non-negotiables? Okay.
Yes.
Are you love your family?
Yes.
I love my sisters. I love my brothers. I love my mama.
Yep.
So I may talk on the phone to them every day. Can you really handle that? So you got to establish what are your non-negotiables and expectations. Then here it is. This may seem shallow, and you may want to kick me off after I say this. You may sometimes, and it's hard, but sometimes, especially in a small demographic, okay, how many guys have you been with? Have you, you might have to, if you sense it's real and you got somebody you can really trust, you need to tell them, we go out to the mall or we in the same church. I've kind of been with that person. You know what I mean? And I mean, I know it may be, I take everything to my grave. I appreciate that. But some spouses don't want surprises, because I've seen with situations where, man, I wish my husband would have told me he slept with her. I go over her house every day. You know what I mean? So it's an awkward feeling. So if you can get to that place, that's why communication is key. And you got to make sure spiritually they're strong, they're connected, they're not just in church. They can handle that. And if they tell you, you're not going to spread it if y'all don't make it. You've got to have some non-negotiables, because when you get married, it's going to come up. Then consecration. Me and my wife went through the Bible. We went through the Bible, book of Mark and Matthew, and we prayed for each other every morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. And my wife would tell you, I was in church, I love Jesus, but I wasn't as spiritual. But us doing that brought us together, and it catapulted her. And I'm a pastor, and she had to almost lead me spiritually sometimes. But that's because we came together. and did scripture readings, systematic reading, systematically praying for people, journaling. That's going to be the glue. Almost like dressing. You got cornbread, you got celery, you got onions, you got, some people add stuffing mix, some people add breadcrumbs, eggs. So the prayer and Bible study together, or prayer definitely, is the stuff that's bringing the seasonings together to make your cornbread dressing. So bringing those together, that's the glue that brings you together. And I still believe a family that prays together, stay together. And then we did a book called Draw the Circle in Prayer, and we prayed. And so it helped us to be consecrated and kept keeping God at the forefront. The Bible says two are better than one, and a three-strand cord is not easily broken. So you got two of you, but you need God at the helm.
Yes.
And so it's very important. And then your community, who you hanging with.
Okay.
And I often tell people when I preach, you got to be careful who you hang with, because soul ties ain't somebody soul ties for me is not only who you slept with, but who you hung around. That's why you have a lot of people who feel depressed because they've been around depressed people. Why am I going crazy? Because the people you hang around is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And why am I mad? Because the people you're listening to and you're talking to every day are mad. Why am I being messy? Because the people you're around are being messy, and that got on you. So you have to be careful. Soul ties are not only sexual to me, they're relational. Because if you're hanging around a certain amount of people, some of that gets off on you, if we can be honest. And then you got to circumcise your ear. Who you hang with directs, correlate with that. You got to keep people out your ear, especially when you get married. But before you get married, you need to know that. And one thing my mother told me, and it helped me, I can trust my mother. My mother said, don't tell me nothing bad about your spouse. Crazy. Now, you can talk to me. I'm going to love both of y'all. I love your wife, but I love you as my son. And even with parents, they love you. They love your spouse. But let's be real. They really love both of you, but they really love you.
Exactly.
And if you tell your mom or your dad, especially if there's some infidelity stuff or some crazy stuff, and God forbid, some infidelity and beating stuff or grabbing, and you forgave them, but you ran off at the mouth and told certain people, your friends, your homies, or he stayed gone one night with his friends every night, or she don't cook for you, and you telling your mama, your aunties, your friends, okay, you may have forgiven them, but they don't always easily forgive, because in the back of their mind, they're thinking about what you told them.
Yep.
And you really love your husband, your wife, your boo, but they like, I love them, but I can't get what you told me out of their mind. So those four things: counseling, communication, consecration, and your community.
So friends, we are going to break up this conversation. It was a really good conversation, a conversation that we need to have, that you need to have. Again, whether you are single and want to, most likely you want to be in a relationship sooner or later, whether you are in a relationship or if you are engaged. Even if you are married. Not because you're married doesn't mean that, okay, I didn't have this conversation before. You still can have this conversation, and you should have this conversation. You should ask these questions.
That's right.
Get it in the open.
That's right.
And work through these things if you all have your differences.
That's right.
This is where you definitely will want marriage counseling then, because that your pastor or even a therapist, however, can help you guys in those situations where you have differences. So this conversation is for everybody, every adult.
Come on.
So this is going to be broken up in, I don't know, maybe two or three parts. So you might see the same beginning and the same ending. But it's because this conversation is important, and this conversation is for you.
Yes.
So again, Pastor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and appreciate what you're doing, and your platform is amazing. I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your humility. I appreciate you allowing me to talk and speak. And I'm hoping we can do this again.
Oh yeah, we
And
will be doing this again.
thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really enjoyed this. So I pray God's favor, blessing upon you and your ministry,
Thank you. I
because this is a
receive it.
ministry. Yeah,
I
and
receive it.
that God would grow you and expand you, because your heart is pure, and that this would flow through different mediums, and that God will continue to bless your family. And so thank you again. I don't take it for granted. Yeah.
And may God bless you and your family too, and your ministry, and that your ministry keep growing too, and that you keep touching hearts, and saving souls for Jesus. That's the bottom line here.
That's what it's about.
That's what it's about. So, and I really appreciate you being here. So, friends,
appreciate you.
Remember to go to Greatest Jesus in Me YouTube channel, and you know what to do. Subscribe now. Be blessed, and until next time.